Good afternoon. Imagine a situation in which you had two bosses. Two bosses because you had two jobs at two different businesses. And imagine that at the one, you were working all day and you put in your hours and you did your job, and then you got off of work and you went to the other job. And you put in a full day there and did your job, did your work. Now you're working two jobs, which is almost impossible for people to do two full-time jobs because it doesn't leave room for anything else, especially things like rest and sleep. But imagine a situation in which you had two jobs, and those two jobs were actually in businesses that were in competition with each other. If you went to one restaurant and worked there, and then you went across the street and worked at a different restaurant, if those two jobs are in direct competition with each other, you can imagine how those bosses really wouldn't like it that you were working at the other place. And the one would get on you and say, you can't go to work over there anymore. And the other one would say the same thing. They would try to undercut the other boss that you had, the other job that you had. They might try to raise your wages to lure you into working more just at the one place. They might try to do things that would make the other place look bad. They would be very difficult to work for if they were working against each other through you. That's having two bosses, and people don't typically do that. Even though people will have multiple jobs, it's very rare that they're going to be in the same field or in the same industry. Jesus said something about having two bosses, and he said two masters. This is what he says in Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and mammon. When Jesus says mammon there, he is talking not just about money, but he's talking about everything that we have in our lives, the things that we have, our homes, all of our stuff, and our money too. And Jesus is saying you can't have God be your master, the one who you listen to and follow and do what he says, and then also have mammon, have your stuff, your money, be your master, because they're working against each other. Your stuff, if your money is number one in your life, then God isn't. And that's not a position that God is willing to take. He's not going to be second in our lives. And so if money and mammon and your stuff is going to be your master, then you're loving that, and you're actually despising God. God wants to be number one, and thankfully he is the one who gives us the faith through his word so that we can keep him number one. That's what God has done for us in Jesus, and that's what Jesus was talking about here, keeping Jesus number one, keeping God number one through his word. Until we see each other again, the Lord's blessings on your day.